Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of the Black Birth Stories podcast. I am honored to have today's guest, Miss Shannon Hart-Powell. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your willingness to share your birth story so that other moms can learn and heal and be empowered by your story. Would you start just by introducing yourself to us?
My name's Shannon, and I am the mother of two amazing little kids, Zachary and Zoe. And just for the record, I always like to let people know my children were adopted. We adopted at birth, but we did have tons of information about our birth mothers, the birth fathers. So our birth story is a little unique, but it is very interesting what we know and what our birth mothers went through.
That's fantastic and such a unique story. I'm thankful for the perspective because there are so many moms who don't have these conversations and feel alone and may not be able to collaborate and share with other moms who've been through this experience. So those shared lived experiences really go a long way towards improving our own labor and delivery and birth experiences. First question, in one word, how would you describe your birth experience?
I would say both times it was very stressful because our birth mother for Zachary went through quite a bit in her experience. And it was stressful for me. I wasn't physically giving birth, but just knowing what she was going through was stressful for me. My first concern was, okay. And my second concern was, is the baby going to be okay? With Zoe, she was hanging rough and tough. She was not ready to. Um, she wasn't ready to come on this earth for the most part. It was a very long time before she arrived, but when she arrived well. I had the opportunity to meet her birth mother, and she kind of talked me through her experience. She said that Zoe was a very easy labor and an easy delivery, and fortunately, Zoe was perfectly healthy.
Praise God. Were you able to be present during the births of either of your children?
No, I was not. Zachary came early. No one was ready. Birth mother and birth father, they were not ready. We were here in Texas. He was in North Carolina. With Zoe, again, it was a waiting game with this child. Her birth mother kept saying, I think she's coming, but she was not ready. So she just kind of hung tight. And her birth mother told us she went in labor and went to the hospital. And Zoe came like 2 hours later, she's just here, and she was good to go. Her birth mother said, honestly, Zoe was probably her easiest delivery.
I bet she still moves to the beat of her own drum. Like she does things when she wants to do it, how she's going to do it. She just, yeah. I feel like you have some insight into the personality, even in pregnancy. Like, if you're going to have a child that's going to be all over the place, or, if you're going to have a calm, cool, collected child. That's so interesting. Yeah.
I think one of the things that I did notice is that meeting Zoe's birth mother, who was a very calm woman, don't know how she handled everything that was going on in her life, delivered a child. And when we met her, she was as calm as could be. And what I have discovered is Zoe is much calmer um, than I am at times. And I always think back to she's like that because in the womb, that's what she's.
What's one thing you wish you knew before your birth experience?
I will say before we went the adoption route, that my husband and we did go through, trying to get pregnant through fertility treatments. And that was so stressful. Being a Black woman, when we got to the end of 3 or 4 rounds of in vitro and discovering that was not going to work, and we had to literally go through our savings, being told, oh, you could do egg donation, and we're in here in Texas, and there was nowhere for us to go. It was like, oh, you have to go somewhere else and live there while you go through this process. I wish I had known when I was younger that I could donate my eggs. And when I got a little bit older and could still carry a child, that I could have used my money that way. I would have invested. I would have taken out a loan for that. But no one told me at that time. And so now I tell women, talk to your doctor about this if you're hitting this age, if that is something you desire later on, so that if your eggs become your issue, you already have that person. And science is so amazing and different. It can help you become a mother the way you think or dream. But that's the only thing I wish I had known. How my children came into my life, I just say it's a godsend.
These are the worst mistakes Black women can make when choosing an OBGYN, assuming they'll automatically prioritize your safety, ignoring the signs when they dismiss your concerns, and not having a plan to advocate for yourself. Sis, I've been there, and that's why I'm so glad I found the Mocha Maternity Survival Guide, Choosing the Right OBGYN. This guide gave me everything I needed to avoid those mistakes, from conversation starters to tools for assessing their care. It's the ultimate roadmap to make sure you're seen, heard, and protected. Don't take chances with your health. Get your copy today and make the choice that could change everything.
We have such a missed opportunity when it comes to optimizing the preconception period to really inform patients and educate them about their options. I always say that there are so many things that are beyond our control when it comes to determining our maternal health outcomes, but really honing in on the preconception period, asking patients, just taking the extra few minutes to ask patients, what are your family planning goals? Have you started on them? What does your time frame look like? What is your plan? So that you empower patients with tools like egg preservation, so that they don't have this taken away from them, these options taken off the table when they do settle down and decide that they are now ready to build their families. That's something that we as clinicians, physicians, providers can do a much better job at. Thank you for bringing that up.
You're welcome. I think times have changed. I think how we are approaching this subject has changed. And I can appreciate our doctors just really talking about it more. I wish the doctor that I have now, she had been my doctor earlier when we first wanted to do this process, because I'm pretty sure she would have told me, hey, Shannon, we need to go this route. So I can appreciate, I'm seeing more podcasts, more information on social media, more even, our celebrities are talking about different ways of, growing our family. So I think it's education. I can definitely see it. We're seeing more doctors like you who talk to women who look like me and say, this is a possibility. And I think younger women are thinking differently about increasing their family, growing their families.
Who you choose as your provider, I firmly believe is the single most important decision you can make when it comes to improving your outcomes. We must make such intentional choices. We must be prepared with the framework and the tool set to really make good choices, because it's the one decision, if you get that right, 99.99999% of the time, everything else is going to fall into place.
Yes.
It truly is. It truly is. Did you feel heard during your birth experience? Why or why not?
First of all, I was an advocate for my birth mothers because I needed to make sure they were going to be healthy. Because if they were healthy, that meant the child that they delivered would be healthy. So as soon as we knew we were connected, and fortunately, I was with an agency who really did believe in the health of our children who are born, especially when you're getting the infant. So they took on the care, and they were specifically with Zachary, they were contacting me weekly, especially as birth mother got closer to having the baby, and just really talked to them. And they provided care for our birth mothers, because I felt if I'm going to pay all this money, the birth experience will be paid for. However, what I really liked was there is therapy and counseling and almost a year's worth of healthcare available to her.
That's awesome.
Because they've already made a huge decision and a sacrifice and a plan. However, I was also concerned about what happens next, this child's mother, because I assume one day my children may want to meet their birth mothers. And I don't want that after effect to be so prominent on the birth mom's mind. I've had contact with Zachary's birth mom, and amazingly, she said the first 2 years were very rough, and she's grown so much. And I've seen via social media how she has grown. So it's been amazing. And she gets to see how his little self is growing too.
Think about it. How many hands helped raise you? How many voices spoke life over you? How many arms held you close? Black family is deep, and at Melanin Maternity, we celebrate every single part of it. We're not just a shop for mamas. We're a love letter to the entire village. From keepsake birth announcements that honor your newest blessing, to new dad gifts, to presents for the grandma who still prays over you. We have gifts that tell your family's story. Looking for holiday gear that actually represents us? We got that too. Because whether you're the one having the baby or the one making sure the baby always has love, you deserve to be celebrated. Shop Melanin Maternity on Etsy today by visiting melaninmaternity.etsy.com. Because our families, our stories, and our legacies deserve the spotlight.
How did you learn how to advocate for yourself?
I was a reporter in my former life, and I felt like no question was stupid. And I would go on Google and I said, I read this, but you tell me, you're the doctor. And I was fortunate to be surrounded by a lot of women, other reporters who had had children, and they just flooded me with all this information, even about just kind of taking care of myself when we were going through in vitro. How do I care? Because I'm rocking and rolling in life. And I wasn't thinking about that even when I was going through the process. They started, but they don't tell you really how you're going to feel and what you're going to feel like and what does this do. I've never been a sickly person, so I wasn't taking much medicine except vitamins, I guess. Really, I ask a lot of questions. I don't care how dumb they sound. And then if I don't feel like I've gotten the right answer, I'll go back to friends like you,
That part.
other doctors that
Somebody
I know,
else.
and say,
Yes.
hey, what did you hear? Or what do you think I need to go? Who should I get the answers from? I am that person that a number of the healthcare providers now, you can go in and you can type note. I am a note writing person, and I will write and say, I need an appointment, or I have these 3 questions. And if I don't hear back in 48 hours, I'm calling, emailing. So I have always been a huge advocate. My mom can't even believe I asked some of the questions. She'll say, I can't believe you asked your doctor that. But I don't care. I feel like that's the job they chose.
That's why we're here. Exactly.
So if you're afraid, like, I will talk about a little bit of anything. And if it annoys you as my doctor, then I have to find a different.
Exactly. Such important points. Who showed up for you during your birth journey?
I can honestly say my husband showed up. Like, he was more excited than I was. I did all the adoption paperwork, but he was the one that read the book, y'all. He doesn't like to ask the questions when we get in there with the doctors, but since I had already talked to him, I kind of knew what he wanted to ask, and I would just ask all kinds of crazy questions. Even when we spoke to my daughter's birth mother, like maybe 24 hours after she was born, I just went ahead and asked the questions. Her birth mother was amazingly and very open, and I just asked a few more questions. My husband was making snide jokes, which I was like, this woman she is not going to release this child to us because of you. However, she thought he was funny. She thought she just assumed I had a lot of great questions. Like, there were things that I felt like I needed to know so that as Zoe moves forward in life, I know how to answer.
That makes perfect sense.
Some of those questions. So, that was the big thing, was actually having that one-on-one with her. It was hard and scary when I walked in that room, but she was just like an open book. Like, she talked about what it felt like. I was like, oh, what are you doing for me? But, I'm glad she did, because when Zoe comes to me with questions that are hard like that, I can deliver the answer to the best of my knowledge.
I hear you saying communication.
Yeah, it is. Sometimes I'm not good at it, but when it comes to my health, and because we have children so late in life, I have to advocate for my health now. I have to advocate for my children. I tell my friends to advocate for themselves, because if I am not healthy, I cannot get these 2 children to a certain space in their lives.
It starts with a healthy mama.
Yeah. And I have to teach my children how to advocate for themselves, because one of these days, and this is how I phrase it, one of these days, my daughter will graduate from college, get her career, get married, and have her own children. And I need to teach her how to advocate for herself. if she doesn't feel well.
And it starts now.
Making her open and okay with asking the crazy questions sometimes, because it's going to make a difference, because I may not be here, but I'm teaching her how to do it.
Last question. If you could tell another Black mama one thing before she gives birth or goes through her birthing journey, what would it be?
Well, one, advocate for yourself. The doctors are here for you. I think that's the most important thing. I think everything that we've heard today, I wish my birth mothers had had access to some of the information that we've heard today, because I know they didn't, unfortunately for them. But I think reaching out to other people, you cannot do any of this alone. I didn't have the traditional labor. I didn't go through all of that. However, any of my friends, I'm like, did you talk to your doctor? What did your doctor say? If you don't know, talk to your friends, because they'll give you ideas to go back to your doctor, but just really have that open communications. I have a neighbor, and she has a number of children. And I have to say this, she is on child number 7. By choice. And she told me one time, she said, I learned something different and new with each child. And she has a true community. Like, I've never seen anything like it. Like how her friends, her family, they show up for her in every aspect of what she does when it comes to birthing her children. And, she's, by the grace of God, I pray for her 7th child, that this child is just as healthy as her other children. But here's the real deal. You just have to ask the questions. You have to ask the questions. The doctors, yes. I know several, they cannot read your mind.
No, they cannot.
They can see the information and the statistics and what the test tells them. That's what they're looking at. Whether you're going through a pregnancy, a birth, after you've gone and you've had that child, there is still a lot more up here. Don't be afraid to tell people it's hard, because I didn't birth a kid, but being a mom is hard.
The hardest job I've ever had. Yes.
It is my hardest job, is favorite job, but it is work, and you just have to, like several of the panelists said, sometimes, now you do have to calm down, because it does scare people.
Do your breath work.
However, you just have to be real determined, and especially our moms that look like us. Even when you take your kids in to advocate for the pediatricians, like, just ask all the dumb questions. If they get mad, then that's not the doctor for you. My doctor. He's like, okay, so what you got? And I was like, I don't have anything. And he always says, yes, you do.
Yeah, talk to me. So advocacy, communication, and community.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I am so honored to have spent this time with you.
It is my pleasure.
Yes, we are coming to you live this weekend from the Black Maternal Health Summit, put on by More Milk with Dr. Denise Horge. Thank you so much for joining us, and tune in for next week's episode of the Black Birth Stories podcast.
Want to go deeper? The conversation doesn't have to stop here. Join Melanin Maternity, our digital Black birth community, where you'll get expert guidance, real support, and a sisterhood that sees you. From live Q&As with birth experts to empowering discussions with other Black mamas, we've got you covered. Click the link in the description and step into the community you deserve.